I had been ice-skid into an apocalyptic novel, reincarnated as the Judagonist with space warping abilities. The story kicks off with a female lead begging me to open the gate and save a group of survivors. Suddenly, a transparent live chat feed scrolled across my vision. Oh my god, the female lead is so Cole, the supply guy, needs to open the gate. What kind of hero just stands there and watches people die? He has to save them. The future lightning-powered main character, Rex Hunter, is in there. Cole, stop hesitating. You're running out of time, and the saintly Ashley is going to lose faith in you. I'd read the original novel. I knew the guy I was inhabiting, Cole, had saved this group. Turns out they were a bunch of ungrateful snakes who not only stole his supplies but also shoved his team into a zombie horde as a distraction. But I'm not the original story's bleeding heart idiot. Why should my supplies go to a bunch of Why should my life be a stepping stone for someone else? Isn't the other female character, Chloe, the one with the cherubic face and a figure that was anything but? A moron's kindness isn't worth a damn. So, I slid open the heavy gate to our compound and said to the lead girl, Ashley White, with a smile, you're the compassionate one. You go save him first. Cole, are you out of your mind? The shove sent Ashley White stumbling, and she nearly fell into the muddy street. Her pretty face, usually fixed in an expression of tragic empathy for the world, was now a mask of pure shock and disbelief. Behind her, the other survivors, my own team members, sucked in a collective breath. WTF, what's wrong with this guy? Is he going off script? Did he just push our Ashley out there? Does he have a death wish? It's over. There's no way the lightning-powered hero gets saved now. The readers are going to flame this guy into oblivion. The chat feed scrolled frantically past my eyes, a mix of gleeful schadenfreude and furious condemnation. I couldn't be bothered to watch. Leaning against the door of our modified armored truck, I folded my arms and watched Ashley. I'm not crazy. You're the saint, right? You're the one who thinks they're so pitiful. Go on then, use your kindness to pacify the undead. Maybe they'll clear a path for you. My voice wasn't loud, but in the dead silence of the ruined street, it carried to every ear. Ashley's face flushed red, then drained to a ghostly white. The guy in glasses next to her steadied her, then glared at me. Cole, how can you talk to Ashley like that? She's just a good person. A good person. I snorted, pointing toward the supermarket a short distance away, now completely swarmed by the undead. Then let her use that goodness to feed the horde. That should buy you an opening to save your people. The man in glasses was speechless with rage. From my team, a girl named Chloe Summers stepped forward to stand by my side. She had a doll-like innocent face, but a body that was astonishingly wet. In the original story, her infatuation with the protagonist led to her dying at the hands of those same backs. Chloe casually toyed with a military combat knife, her cold gaze sweeping over Ashley. Ashley, our supplies didn't just fall out of the sky. Every time Cole goes on a run, he's risking life and limb. Why should we put our own people in mortal danger for a bunch of strangers? Ashley's eyes welled up, tears shimmering. But they're human beings. How can we just watch them die? That teary, on the Vergivo breakdown look might have made countless men melt before the apocalypse. Now it just made me sick. Then you go save them, I repeated, my voice now laced with impatience. If you can get them out of there in one piece, I'll give you half the supplies in this truck. Ashley's tears froze in her ducts. She stared at me, then looked toward the horde of zombies, growling and slamming against the supermarket's glass doors. A small part of the swarm, drawn by our commotion, had already started to lurch and shamble in our direction. Her body gave an involuntary shudder. Elmo, the saint got checkmated. Yeah? You go. Talk is cheap. Cole is awesome. I love a guy who keeps it real. The sentiment in the live chat seemed to be shifting slightly. Ashley bit her lower lip, her face pale. The guy in glasses next to her opened his mouth to say something but was silenced by a single icy glare from Chloe. What's the matter? Scared, I raised an eyebrow. Where'd all that self-sacrificing spirit go? Ashley was so cornered she couldn't utter a word. She looked at my team members for support. Tough luck. While none of them spoke, their expressions made their positions clear. No one was willing to die for some impractical notion of kindness. Cole, you'll regret this. Ashley finally managed to squeeze out, there's someone very powerful in that supermarket. If you don't, save him today. He'll make sure you pay for it in the future. I almost laughed out loud. She was talking about Rex Hunter, wasn't she? The guy who, in the original story, becomes the most powerful lightning user on the planet. So what? A powerful man who needs other people to rescue him is, in my book, just a liability. Worse, he was an ungrateful one. Is that so? I'll be waiting. I pulled open the driver's side door and got in. Chloe, get in. Everyone else back to the compound. Yes, boss, Chloe answered crisply and hopped into the passenger seat. The rest of the team quickly returned to their vehicles. A series of engines roared to life. Ashley and the guy in glasses were left standing alone in the street. She watched our convoy kick up dust and speed away, her face a mixture of bewilderment and fury. Cole, you coward, you cold-blooded monster. Her screams faded behind us. Chloe glanced in the rearview mirror and pursed her lips. She really thinks she's the savior of the world. All the entitlement of a princess without any of the influence. I just smiled, not saying a word. Back at our fortified warehouse compound, I immediately gave an order. Everyone, reinforce the perimeter and check your weapons and ammo. From this moment on, no one leaves the compound without my direct order. One of my crew members asked hesitantly, "Boss, what about Ashley and her friend? Whether they live or die is none of our concern." My voice turned to ice. My orders are for my team and my team only. Anyone got a problem with that? You can get the hell out now. The group fell silent. They had all followed me through hell and back. They knew how I operated. When I said jump, no one asked how high. I went up to the second-floor surveillance room, where I could monitor the streets surrounding our compound. On one of the screens, Ashley and the glasses guy were still lingering nearby, apparently hoping we'd have a change of heart. Naive. Chloe walked in with 2 mugs of hot water and handed one to me. "Cole, are you really just going to leave her out there? She's not worth it." I took a sip, my gaze fixed on another monitor displaying the feed from a supermarket. The glass doors were now covered in spiderweb cracks on the verge of shattering. Chloe followed my gaze and frowned. "They're not going to hold out much longer." Nope. I put the mug down and tapped a few commands on the control console. A micro-drone launched from a vent on the warehouse roof, silently ascending into the sky and buzzing toward the supermarket. Chloe's eyes lit up. "You're planning to... Know your enemy. Know yourself," I said, a cold smirk playing on my lips as the drone transmitted a crystal-clear image back to the screen. "I want to see just how pathetic our future lightning-powered hero looks right now." The drone's camera slipped through a shattered pane of glass and into the supermarket. The place was a wreck. About a dozen survivors were huddled at the top of the stairs to the second floor, their faces etched with terror and despair. A tall, arrogant-looking young man was pacing back and forth, agitated. "Ah, it's Rex Hunter. My man is so handsome. No, my husband is trapped. This is heartbreaking. It's all that useless Cole's fault for not saving them, making my man suffer." The chat feed erupted in anguish for their protagonist. This guy, without a doubt, was Rex Hunter. At this point, he hadn't awakened his powers yet. He was just holding a fire axe, looking no different than any other survivor. A woman grabbed his arm, crying, "Rex, what do we do? There are more and more of those things outside." "Stop crying. You're so annoying," Rex snapped, shaking her hand off. "If it wasn't for that stupid girl, Ashley, insisting someone was coming to rescue us, we could have broken out the back entrance ages ago. And now, look, the back is swarmed too." Another man chimed in with a complaint. "Exactly, we wasted the perfect window to escape." "What's the use of saying that now?" Rex roared, kicking over a nearby shelf. "Everyone, find anything you can use. When it gets dark, we're making a break for it ourselves." Just as he finished speaking, the first-floor entrance doors exploded inward with a deafening crash. An endless tide of Z's shrieked and poured inside. The survivors on the second floor screamed in terror. Rex's face paled. He hefted his fire axe and yelled, "Block the stairs now." A few people scrambled to barricade the stairwell with shelves and debris, but there were too many zombies surging upward. One man wasn't fast enough. A zombie grabbed his ankle, and he was dragged into the horde in an instant. His blood-curdling scream was cut short after a single gurgle. Blood stained the stairs. A vicious glint appeared in Rex Hunter's eyes. He glanced at the woman who had been crying earlier, then suddenly shoved her down the stairs. The woman screamed as she tumbled into the sea of undead. The Z's were immediately drawn to the new target. Seizing the opportunity, Rex yelled at the others, "Go to the roof." He was the first to turn and run upstairs. The remaining survivors, catching on, didn't hesitate to abandon their comrade and follow him. The drone's camera faithfully recorded the entire scene. Standing next to me, Chloe was speechless. He just pushed one of his own people to the zombies. Surprised, I watched the screen calmly. People will do anything to survive. The original novel had only glossed over this part, saying Rex Hunter had led the survivors in a heroic breakout. Now, I saw the truth. This so-called heroism was just climbing over the corpses of his companions. Chloe's face was a little pale, her hand tightening around her mug. "Cole, I'm glad we didn't go save them." "Yeah," I switched off the monitor. This group was even more disgusting than I had imagined. My decision had been the right one. The sky gradually darkened. Outside the compound, Ashley and a man in glasses were still there. Realizing we weren't coming back, they had found a relatively safe abandoned car to hide in for the night. The city after dark was a playground for the undead, filled with their chilling, echoing shrieks. I set up a rotating night watch schedule for the team and went back to my room. My private dimensional space was packed to the gills with supplies, food, water, medicine, weapons, everything you could imagine. It was all the fruit of a month of life or death scavenging since I'd arrived in this world. I pulled out a self-heating chili mac and a nice cold can of Coke. In the middle of the apocalypse, this was a meal fit for a king. WDF, he's eating chili mac. People are fighting for their lives outside, and this dude is having a feast. He's not human. Retracting my earlier comment about him being hot, I'm officially a hater. The bleeding hearts in the live chat were at it again. I paid them no mind. I wasn't here to save the world. I just wanted to live and live well with the people I trusted. After eating my fill, I lay on my bed and started mapping out my next move. This city was doomed to be overrun by a massive horde in the near future. We had to relocate to the much safer Fort Haven military base before that happened. In the original story, the protagonist team had been betrayed and killed by Rex and Ashley on the way there. This time, I wouldn't let history repeat itself. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a frantic knocking on my door. It was Chloe. Cole, bad news, you need to see this. I followed her to the surveillance room. On the main screen, a crowd of 20 to 30 survivors was gathered outside our main gate. Leading them was Ashley White. Standing next to her was a tall man. Though filthy, his eyes burned with that same untamable arrogance. Rex Hunter. Somehow, they had actually escaped the supermarket, and they had found their way here. Open up, we know you're in there. A man yelled, banging on our steel gate with a pipe, creating a deafening clang. Share your supplies, we're all in this together. Yeah, you can't just watch people die. The crowd roared in agreement, their numbers giving them courage. Ashley stood at the front, a triumphant smirk on her face as she stared directly at the surveillance camera. It was as if she was challenging me. See, we survived without you, and we brought more people. Now you have to open this gate for us. Chloe was flushed with anger. How can these people be so shameless? Why should we let them in? Easy, I said, patting her shoulder, my eyes turning to chips of ice. Let them make a scene. Haha, karma's that's what you get for leaving them to die. Rex Hunter is here. Open the gate and bow down. Team Rex, unite all the survivors and take out that selfish bastard Cole. The chat was ecstatic, acting as if Rex had already won. I looked at his arrogant face on the screen and let out a cold laugh. I haven't even settled the score with you for throwing your teammate to the zombies. Today, you'll learn what it means to dig your own grave. I picked up the walkie-talkie and patched it through to the compound's external PA system. Rex Hunter, my voice boomed from the loudspeakers, cutting through the noise. The crowd instantly fell silent. All eyes turned to Rex. He was momentarily stunned. Then a savage grin spread across his face. Well, decided to finally show yourself, kid. I'm going to give you one chance, I said slowly. Take your people and get lost, and I'll pretend this never happened. Otherwise, you'll face the consequences. Haha, Rex laughed as if he just heard the funniest joke in the world. Kid, are you blind? We're the ones with the numbers now. I suggest you open this gate, hand over all your supplies, and maybe if I'm feeling generous, I'll let you live. The crowd behind him joined in the laughter. Ashley frowned, seeming to think Rex's words were a bit much, but she said nothing. She was complicit. Is that so? My voice remained calm. In that case, allow me to give you all a gift. With that, I pressed a large red button on the console beside me. In the next second, several massive speakers concealed on the compound's outer walls roared to life. A deafening, ear-splitting siren mixed with heavy metal music blasted across the entire district. I had cranked the volume to the absolute maximum. The sudden sonic assault stunned everyone outside. They clutched their heads in agony, trying to block out the noise. Oh, my ears. Turn it off. Turn it off. Rex's face contorted in fury. You're insane. Are you trying to draw every zombie in a 5-meter radius? I smiled. Congratulations. You guessed correctly. Through the cameras, I watched the far end of the streets. A black tide of the undead, drawn by the incredible noise, was now flooding toward our compound at a terrifying speed. On the screen, the looks of arrogance on the faces of Rex, Hunter, and his mob finally twisted into pure terror. As for Ashley, her face was ashen. She stared at our compound in utter disbelief. She probably couldn't comprehend why I would do something like this. A murder-suicide, not quite. I just wanted to treat them to a spectacular fireworks show. Run for your lives. Zombies are coming. So many of them, Rex Hunter's group descended into chaos. One moment they were a conquering mob. The next, they were ants whose nest had just been kicked, scattering in every direction. Rex was the fastest to react. He shoved people out of his way, screaming, "Get out of my way, move." He tried to flee back the way they had come. Too late, the horde was closing in from all sides. They were completely surrounded. Ashley stood frozen, her body trembling like a leaf as she stared at the hellish scene unfolding around her. The man in glasses tried to pull her away, but she shook him off. Why would you do this? She muttered, her eyes filled with despair and confusion. Chloe, standing beside me, watched the magnificent disaster and whispered, Cole, we're going to be okay, right? Our compound was reinforced with shipping containers and steel plates, surrounded by an electric fence. But even she was nervous in the face of a horde this massive. Don't worry, I said, switching off the music and leaving only the siren blaring. The show is just getting started. I picked up my walkie-talkie. All combat personnel assemble at exit 3. Roger that. I pulled on my tactical gear, grabbed my weapons, and met Chloe at exit 3, located on the side of the compound. It opened into a narrow back alley, the entrance of which I had already blocked with a massive fuel tanker. My team was already assembled, their faces grim, but their eyes showing no fear. They were my people. They trusted me. I looked at them and spoke in a low, serious tone. Remember, our targets are not the zombies. They looked at me confused. I pointed to the fuel tanker at the mouth of the alley, a wicked smile spreading across my face. In a minute, I'm going to open a small gap and let Rex Hunter's group in. The second they're inside, we detonate the tanker. I'm going to turn this alley into their tomb. A collective gasp went through the team. The plan was brutal. It was a devil's gambit. Chloe looked at me, her eyes shining with a strange light. Cole, you're so bad. I love it. I tapped her helmet lightly. Cut the chatter. Get ready to move. Using a hidden camera at the alley's entrance, I monitored the situation outside. The horde was pushing Rex's group back, forcing them closer and closer to the alley. They were running around like headless chickens, desperate for an escape route. Over here, there's an alley here, someone shouted. The group swarmed toward it like it was their last hope. When they saw the fuel tanker blocking their path, despair set in again. Rex kicked the tanker in frustration. Damn it, what blocked this off? At that moment, I spoke into my walkie-talkie, giving an order to a team member hidden underneath the tanker. 5. Open the door for them. Copy that. A camouflage steel plate under the tanker slid open, revealing a crawl space just big enough for one person to squeeze through. Look, there's an opening here. A survivor screamed with joy. Rex was the first one through, diving into the hole without a second thought. The others scrambled to follow. In the crush of the crowd, Ashley was pushed unwillingly toward the opening, watching my prey crawl one by one into the trap I had set. The smile on my face grew colder. Get ready, I said, raising my hand. Every member of my team gripped their remote detonators. 6. Rex Hunter was the first to crawl out of the opening. Before he could even get to his feet, he saw us at the other end of the alley, armed to the teeth and waiting. The color drained from his face. Cole. Behind him, the other survivors emerged. When they saw our advanced gear and our icy stares, they all froze. A terrible sense of foreboding washed over them. Ashley was the last one through. When she saw me, her expression was a storm of conflicting emotions. Anger, fear, and a sliver of something I couldn't quite place. Regret. Now you're the rats in the trap, I said, lowering my hand. Rex, ever the opportunist, immediately realized he'd been played. He turned to crawl back through the opening. Too late. The zombies outside had already swarmed the small hole. A blood-curdling scream came from the opening as another survivor who tried to follow Rex was dragged halfway out and torn to shreds. The way back was gone. This narrow alley had become a dead end. Cool, what the hell do you want? Rex yelled, his bravado failing him as he clutched his fire axe. I don't want anything, I said, holding up the remote detonator in my hand. I'm just here to teach you that stealing from others has a price. What are you talking about? I pressed the button. Boom. A deafening, earth-shattering explosion erupted from the mouth of the alley. The fuel tanker detonated, sending a massive fireball into the sky that formed a mushroom cloud. The shockwave, filled with shrapnel, ripped through the alley. Rex Hunter and his mob were vaporized before they even had a chance to scream. Consumed by the inferno, our team, safely positioned behind reinforced cover, was completely unharmed. The fire burned away everything. It purified everything. Holy SU just wiped them all out. That's brutal. What kind of human being comes up with a plan like that? Oh yeah, that was awesome. That's how you deal with backstabbers Brr, this guy is the final boss. The live chat went absolutely wild. The force of the blast temporarily silenced the zombie shrieks. After the firestorm passed, the alley was a scorched, blackened ruin. Nothing remained but a few charred, unrecognizable corpses. Wait, there was still a figure huddled in a corner. It was Ashley. She had survived. At the moment of the explosion, the man in glasses who had been following her had instinctively thrown himself on top of her, shielding her with his body. He was now a carbonized husk, but Ashley had only been knocked around by the blast. She was filthy and battered, but alive. She lay on the ground, staring at the carnage, her body shaking uncontrollably. I walked over slowly and looked down at her. She looked up, and the eyes that were once so clear and full of pity were now filled with nothing but raw, primal terror. Devil, you're a devil, she stammered. Thanks for the compliment, I replied, my face a blank mask. You have two choices now. 1. Get lost. 2. I send you to join them. Ashley's pupils contracted. She had no doubt I would do it. The instinct for survival overwhelmed every other emotion. She scrambled to her feet and ran, not daring to look back at me, stumbling and crawling toward the alley's exit. The fire was still burning, creating a natural barrier that kept the zombies at bay for now. And just like that, she vanished into the smoke and flames. With Rex Hunter's crew of parasites dealt with, I was in a much better mood. The explosion and the resulting inferno had temporarily kept the main horde at bay, but it wouldn't last. All right, listen up, I ordered immediately. Everyone, clean up this mess, double the watch, and reinforce the perimeter. Get ready for the next wave. My team, their morale sky high, moved out instantly. Chloe came over and handed me a bottle of water. Cole, are you really just letting Ashley go like that? There was a hint of dissatisfaction in her voice. She's broken. She can't cause any more trouble. I twisted the cap off and took a long drink. Ashley's halo of sainthood had been shattered after she witnessed Rex's selfishness and my ruthlessness firsthand. Her entire worldview had collapsed. A fallen saint is more fragile than any ordinary person. Killing her would have been a mercy. Letting her live in this twisted, broken world, forced to struggle every day with her fear and regret, that was the real punishment. Chloe nodded, only half understanding. So, what's next? The number of Z's outside is only getting bigger. We're moving out, I said, my eyes fixed on the dark masses in the distance. This city is finished. To Fort Haven, that's right, Fort Haven Military Base. In a novel, it was the largest human sanctuary in the later stages of the apocalypse. The place where the main plot really took off. While I had no desire to get tangled in that mess again, Fort Haven was undoubtedly the safest option available. Okay, I'll let everyone know to pack up, Chloe said, hurrying off to relay my orders. The entire compound shifted into a state of tense, organized activity. We had to be gone before dawn, before the horde closed in completely and trapped us. I went back to the surveillance room, pulled up a digital map of the region, and started planning our route. Fort Haven was over 200 miles away, a journey fraught with unknown dangers. I needed to find the safest, most discreet path. As I was deep in concentration, one of my team members burst in. Cole, trouble. We've got the army outside. My head snapped up. The army. I immediately switched the camera feeds. Sure enough, on a street not far from our compound, several olive-drab military trucks and 2 armored personnel carriers were parked. A squad of soldiers in full combat gear, carrying assault rifles, was advancing on our position in formation. Leading them was a middle-aged man with a star on his collar, his face chiseled and his gaze sharp. Whoa, it's the rescue team from Fort Haven. Is the plot correcting itself this hard? Rex just died, and the official cavalry shows up. Cole's in deep trouble now. He just blew up a bunch of people. They're going to think he's a hostile and light him up. The live chat was more panicked than I was. I frowned. This was definitely not in the script. In the original story, the military rescue team didn't reach this city for another 2 weeks. Why were they here so early? Boss, what do we do? They look like they're here for us, the team member asked, his voice trembling slightly. Hold your fire. Let's see what they want, I ordered calmly. Everyone, stay alert. The military unit quickly reached our main gate. The commanding officer raised a bullhorn and shouted, "Occupants of this facility, this is the United States Military Rescue Command from Fort Haven. We are responding to a distress signal to evacuate survivors. Open your gates immediately and cooperate with our operation." His voice was powerful and authoritative, leaving no room for argument. A distress signal. My mind immediately jumped to Ashley. It could have been her. No, impossible. She didn't have any long-range communication gear. So who? A thought flickered in my mind. I quickly rewound the surveillance footage from earlier. While Rex and his mob were trying to storm our gate, I spotted an inconspicuous man in the crowd who had briefly taken out what looked like a satellite phone and spoken a few words into it. In the chaos, I hadn't paid him any mind. Now it was obvious. He must have sent the signal, and he was now part of the charcoal scenery in the alley. One thing always leads to another. Chloe must have realized it too, because her expression soured. Cole, this is bad. We made a huge scene with that explosion. They're definitely going to investigate. If they find out we killed all those people, even if we had killed a bunch of scumbags in the eyes of the military, we were still murderers. Calm down, I said, turning off the monitor and standing up. We'll play the hand we're dealt. I'll go talk to them. I walked up to the top of the compound's wall alone. The cold wind whipped at my jacket. I looked down at the well-armed soldiers and their formidable commander, my face impassive. What can I do for you, officer? I called down. The officer in command was a general, a man named Marcus Thorne, a 2-star from the Fort Haven command. He looked up at me, his brow furrowed. Are you in charge here? I am. Was that explosion you're doing? His tone was interrogatory. It was, I answered without hesitation. Behind him, his soldiers raised their rifles in unison, aiming them directly at me. The atmosphere crackled with tension. General Thorne's gaze grew sharper. Why? Do you have any idea how many undead your actions have attracted? Do you realize how much you've complicated our rescue operation? Complicated. I let out a short, humorless laugh. General, I think you're mistaken about something. Before you showed up, we were surviving here just fine, on our own. We have our own rules. A little while ago, a mob of hostiles tried to steal our supplies and kill my people. I did what I had to do to protect my team. As for the consequences, we'll handle them ourselves. My words were firm and unapologetic. General Thorne stared at me, clearly trying to gauge if I was telling the truth. Damn, Cole is badass. Going head-to-head with a general. This is going to be good. The military doesn't care about your post-apocalyptic rules. I think our boy is done for. He killed Rex Hunter, the protagonist of this whole thing. The plot is trying to erase him now. Hostiles, General Thorne scoffed. My unit encountered a survivor on our way here. She told us that you refused to help anyone, that you were cold-blooded, and that you lured dozens of survivors into a trap and murdered them. How do you explain that? He was talking about Ashley. Of course, that woman had managed to cause me trouble after all. Before I could answer, Chloe joined me on the wall. General, that woman is lying, she said angrily. They attacked us first. We were just defending ourselves. Thorne ignored her, his eyes still locked on me. I need proof. Proof. I almost laughed. General, this is the apocalypse. Strength is proof. Survival is truth. But if you want evidence, it's simple. I pointed toward the still smoldering ruins of the alley. Send your men over to pick through the debris. See what those innocent survivors were carrying, food or weapons. You can also investigate the woman who snitched to you. Find out how she managed to survive the horde before she ran into us. I'm sure with the military's resources that won't be too difficult. Thorne's frown deepened. He was silent for a moment, weighing his options. Just then, a communications specialist ran up to him holding a tablet. General, the drone sweep found something. He handed the tablet to Thorne, whose expression changed dramatically as he looked at the screen. It was displaying the footage I had recorded with my microdrone. The video of Rex Hunter shoving his own teammate down the stairs to be eaten by zombies was high definition, shot from a damning angle that captured the vicious, snarling expression on Rex's face perfectly. Thorne's breathing grew heavy. He looked back up at me, and his gaze was entirely different. It held shock, disbelief, and even a flicker of appreciation. You recorded this. I did. You knew what kind of people they were from the start. I did. Thorne was silent. After a long moment, he waved his hand. Everyone, lower your weapons. His soldiers, though confused, obeyed the order. The tension immediately dissipated. General Thorne looked at me and said in a deep voice, "What's your name?" "Son. Cole Walker." He repeated my name. "You got guts and you're resourceful, but this area is no longer secure. I don't care what your history is with that group. Right now, you and your people need to evacuate with us. We're heading to Fort Haven." This was exactly what I wanted, but I had no intention of going as a refugee. "All right," I nodded, "but I have one condition." "Name it." "My team operates as an independent unit. We won't be integrated into your command structure. We'll be partners, not subordinates. We can coordinate with your operations, but we reserve the right to refuse any order we deem unreasonable, and any supplies we scavenge belong to us." The moment I finished, Thorne's aide exploded. "Insulting. Do you know who you're talking to?" Thorne raised a hand to silence him. He looked at me, his eyes glinting with a complex light. "And why should I agree to that?" "Because I can help you clear out every survivor pocket in this city with minimal casualties." I tapped my temple, "and because I know where to find something in this city that you need more than anything else. Like, for example, a fully stocked, untouched, National Guard armory." Thorne's pupils dilated. An armory. In this new world, weapons and ammunition were more precious than food and water. He stared at me as if trying to see right through me. "How do you know that?" "That's my secret," I said, meeting his gaze without flinching. "So now you have a choice to make. General, you can gain a powerful ally, or you can make a potential enemy." General Thorne was a true soldier. He always put the mission first. After weighing the pros and cons, he agreed to my terms. "I'll accept your conditions, but Cole, I want you to understand that with great power comes great responsibility. I hope you don't use your talents to walk down the wrong path." "Don't worry, General," I smiled. "I only walk the path that leads to survival." And just like that, our small group of survivors struck an unlikely partnership with the U.S. military. GG, that was a 10 out of 10 play. He turned the tables completely, went from refugee to partner. Cole is a legend. "General Thorne, I came here to recruit you. How did I end up working for you?" Ashley is probably losing her mind right now. The savior she called in, just allied with her worst enemy. The live chat was full of praise. We quickly packed our supplies, organized our vehicles, and merged with the military convoy. Thorne kept his word, granting us full autonomy. Before leaving the city, as promised, I gave him the location of the hidden armory. When I led them to an underground bunker, disguised as a cold storage facility, and opened the vault doors. Even a seasoned veteran like Thorne was moved to tears at the sight of racks upon racks of rifles and crates of ammunition. "Incredible. This is incredible. Cole, you've done a great service for us today," he said, clapping me firmly on the shoulder. With this arsenal, Fort Haven's defensive capabilities would be upgraded exponentially. And with this offering, I had solidified my standing with the military. Our convoy rolled out of the city of the dead. As we left, I took one last look in the rearview mirror. I saw the ruins, the smoke, and the zombies aimlessly wandering the streets. And in the distance, a lone figure collapsed on their knees. It was Ashley. She must have seen our convoy, seen our vehicles driving alongside the military. I couldn't make out the expression on her face, but I imagined it was priceless. So long, protagonist. Your story is over. Mine is just beginning. The road to Fort Haven was not easy. We encountered several small zombie hordes and attacks from mutated creatures along the way. But between the military's overwhelming firepower and my team's tactical flexibility, we handled every threat. My performance earned the respect of the soldiers who had initially been suspicious of me. Chloe in particular impressed them with her ferocity and skill with a blade, putting many of the male soldiers to shame. During a break, Chloe leaned against our truck, cleaning blood from her knife. What do you think Fort Haven will be like? I don't know, I said, handing her a bottle of water. But I guarantee it'll be more interesting than this. Chloe took the water, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. As long as you're there, I'm not afraid of anything. I smiled and ruffled her hair. Silly girl. 2 days later, we finally arrived at Fort Haven. High concrete walls, watchtowers manned by armed guards, and survivors bustling about with looks of hope on their faces. It truly was a Noah's Ark in the apocalypse. General Thorne personally saw to it that we were given our own independent barracks in a quiet, secure section of the base. Cole, get your team settled and rested. We'll discuss future operations later, he said. Thank you, General. After Thorne left, I immediately had my team sweep the area and set up a security perimeter. You can never be too careful. As we were getting organized, an unexpected visitor arrived. A man in a lab coat and gold-rimmed glasses, looking polished and academic, came to our gate escorted by 2 soldiers. Excuse me, is Mr. Cole Walker here? That's me, I said, walking over. I'm Dr. Alan Carmichael, the head of the base's Research and Development Department. The man said, extending a hand with a warm smile. General Thorne mentioned that you have a unique spatial ability. I didn't shake his hand, just gave him a short nod. I do. Carmichael didn't seem offended and retracted his hand. Excellent. Mr. Walker, our department is currently conducting research on these emerging abilities. We were hoping to invite you to our lab to run a few simple, non-invasive tests. This would be invaluable for our understanding of these powers and how to unlock their potential. His words were smooth and professional, but behind his glasses, I saw a glint of something he couldn't quite hide. Great, here we go. The classic let's dissect the guy with powers plot. This smiling scientist is bad news. I can feel it. Cole, be careful. In the original novel, the deuteragonist was tricked into a lab, treated like a guinea pig, and eventually had his powers stolen. The live chat was screaming warnings at me. I laughed inwardly. Of course, no matter where you go, there are always arrogant academics who think they're the smartest people in the room. All right, I said, agreeing far more easily than he expected. Carmichael was visibly surprised, not expecting me to be so compliant. His smile widened. Wonderful, Mr. Walker. You have a true spirit of cooperation. Please come with me now. Hold on, I stopped him. I'll cooperate, but I have conditions. Oh, please go on. First, my second-in-command has to be with me at all times. I gestured to Chloe. Second, all tests must be conducted under my direct supervision. I have no intention of leaving with anything extra inside of me or with anything missing. And third, I looked him straight in the eye and said, enunciating every word, in exchange for my cooperation, I want priority access to all of your department's latest research and technologies. That includes viewing rights and usage rights. The smile on Dr. Carmichael's face began to stiffen. Mr. Walker, isn't that request a bit? Dr. Carmichael's smile was now strained. Excessive, I finished for him. I'm offering you the secrets of my own body in exchange for the fruits of your research. Seems like a fair trade to me. I think you, Doctor, know better than anyone the research value of a spatial ability user. Carmichael fell silent. He adjusted his glasses, his eyes darting back and forth. Spatial manipulation was the rarest and most strategically valuable power known to exist. If they could unlock its secrets, it would be a game-changer for the entire base. My terms were steep, but the potential payoff was immeasurable. Very well, he finally conceded. In principle, I agree to your conditions. We'll need to work out the specifics. Of course, I said, extending my hand. Pleasure doing business with you, Doctor. This time, he didn't hesitate to shake it. The pleasure is all mine. With Chloe by my side, I followed Carmichael to the R&D department. The facility was heavily guarded, filled with scientists in lab coats and sophisticated equipment. The air smelled of antiseptic. Carmichael led me into a sterile, all-white laboratory. Mr. Walker, we'll start with a basic psionic energy scan. It's completely harmless. He pointed to a machine that resembled an MRI. I laid down on the platform. Chloe stood nearby, her hand resting on the hilt of her knife, her eyes scanning our surroundings wearily. The machine whirred to life. I felt a gentle wave of energy pass through my brain. That's it, that's the machine. In the book, they used it to secretly copy his psionic signature. Then they used that signature to build a device that could nullify his powers. Get out of there, Cole. It's a trap. The live chat was about to have a collective aneurysm. I closed my eyes, a faint smile on my lips. A trap. We'll see who the real prey is. After the scan, Carmichael returned with the data tablet, his face glowing with unconcealed excitement. Absolutely incredible. Mr. Walker, your psionic energy levels are the highest I've ever recorded. It's a miracle, is that so? I sat up, stretching my arms and legs. What's next? Next, we'd like to take a small blood sample to analyze your genetic markers, Carmichael said, approaching with a syringe. I extended my arm. Chloe immediately tensed up. I shot her a reassuring glance. Just as the needle was about to pierce my skin, I spoke. Dr. Carmichael, does your department happen to have a project codenamed Genesis? Carmichael's hand jerked. The needle pricked my skin, and a single drop of blood welled up. He looked up at me, his face a mask of shock. For the first time, his calm professional demeanor was gone. How could you possibly know about that? Project Genesis was the R&D department's most classified initiative. Its goal was to use research on powered individuals to create a serum that could grant abilities to ordinary people. No more than 5 people on the entire base knew of its existence. How could I? I also know, I said, locking eyes with him, that your project has hit a wall. You're missing the key component. A catalyst. And a powerful spatial ability user like myself is, in your eyes, the perfect catalyst. Am I wrong? Carmichael's shock had morphed into horror. He took an involuntary step back, staring at me as if he'd seen a ghost. Who are you? Who I am isn't important, I said, standing up and wiping the drop of blood from my arm. What's important is that I want in on your project. What? Carmichael was completely stunned. He had prepared for countless scenarios. He had expected me to resist, to fight, to expose him. He never in his wildest dreams expected me to ask to join. Why? Why would you do that? Because I'm also very interested in Project Genesis. I smiled. I'd much rather be your partner than your lab rat. I can provide you with the perfect catalyst and even help you refine the process. And what I want in return is simple. I want half of the first batch of the finished serum. Dr. Carmichael's brain had completely shut down. The events of the day had shattered his understanding of the world. Who was this young man? Cole Walker. He not only knew the department's greatest secret but was also aware of its specific scientific hurdles. It was as if he was a prophet from the future, playing a game where he already knew all the moves. Fear mixed with a strange sense of exhilaration began to bubble up inside Carmichael. He realized that the man standing before him might actually be the key to achieving his craziest ambitions. I need to report this to my superiors, he stammered. By all means, I said, sitting back down coolly. Take your time, but I wouldn't take too long. The world outside isn't going to wait. Dr. Carmichael left in a daze. Chloe immediately came to my side, whispering, Cole, what are you thinking? Working with them is like making a deal with the devil. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, I replied, my gaze sweeping over the blinking lights of the lab equipment. Project Genesis is a major plot point in the later stages of a novel. If it succeeds, it will completely change the power balance of this world. I'd rather have it in our hands than in the hands of an ambitious schemer like Carmichael. My goal was never just to find a safe corner to hide in. My goal was to build a new world order, one without bleeding hearts and backstabbing snakes. The Genesis serum was the most important piece of that puzzle. Chloe listened, her expression a mix of confusion and awe, but her eyes were filled with absolute trust and adoration. Whatever you decide to do, Cole, I'm with you. It wasn't long before Carmichael returned. With him was General Thorne. Thorne shut the lab door, dismissed the guards, and stared at me with a grave expression. Cole, what else do you know? His voice was steady, but Carmichael's report had clearly shaken him to the core. I know far more than you can imagine, I said, deciding not to hold back. General, the apocalypse has only just begun. The world is going to get 100 times crueler. There will be stronger, faster zombies, more terrifying mutated beasts, and the conflicts between human factions will become even more brutal. Fort Haven seems impenetrable now, but if you remain stagnant, you'll be wiped out by the tide of change. My words were like a hammer blow to Thorne's heart. He was silent. As a military commander, he understood the precariousness of their situation better than anyone. Ammunition would eventually run out. The undead, however, were constantly evolving. The future of humanity looks bleak. Project Genesis is our only hope, Carmichael interjected, his voice trembling with excitement. If we succeed, we can create a super soldier army of powered individuals. Then we can finally fight back, retake our cities. Cole, you said you wanted half of the finished product, Thorne said, his gaze as sharp as a razor. What do you plan to do with that many doses? I'm going to build a team that answers only to me. I stated my intentions plainly, a team that is absolutely loyal and overwhelmingly powerful. Thorne's eyes narrowed. You want your own private army? You want to fracture this base? No, I shook my head. I want to have a force that can decide the outcome of a battle at the critical moment. A force not bound by red tape or politics. One that operates with maximum efficiency as its only creed. General, your soldiers are the shield that protects this home. My team will be the spear that pierces the darkness. A shield is for defense. A spear is for conquest. Our goals are the same. We just have different jobs. The lab fell into a dead silence. Both Thorne and Carmichael were stunned by my unorthodox, almost heretical declaration. After a long time, General Thorne let out a heavy sigh. He looked at me with a complicated expression. I don't know if allowing this is the right decision or a terrible mistake, but you're right. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I'll agree to your terms. But Cole, I want you to remember what you said here today. That spear of yours must only ever be pointed at the enemy. If the day ever comes when you turn it on your own people, then the first heart it pierces will be my own. I interrupted, my tone resolute. And with that, a secret alliance that would change the fate of the world was forged. I, Cole Walker, a transmigrator from another world, had officially become a core partner in Project Genesis. In the days that followed, I spent most of my time in the R&D labs. Using my knowledge of the novel's plot, I provided Carmichael's team with countless key insights and theoretical breakthroughs. The project, which had been stalled for months, began to advance at an unbelievable pace. Meanwhile, under my direction, Chloe began secretly recruiting and training our own force from within the base's population. Her recruits were all survivors who had lost everything, people who were tough, skilled, and had nothing left to tether them to the old world. I gave them the best food, the safest quarters, and the most brutal training regimen. I told them they were no longer refugees. They were the blades of Dawnbreaker, the first light to cut through the endless night. 1 month later, Dr. Carmichael found me, his hands trembling as he held up a syringe filled with a shimmering blue liquid. We did it. We actually did it. The first perfect prototype of the Genesis serum was complete. I looked at the vial glowing with an ethereal blue light and took a deep breath. My era was about to begin. The first batch of Project Genesis yielded 20 vials of the serum. As per our agreement, I took 10. The first wave of recruits for my team, Dawnbreaker, also numbered 10. They were the best of the best, handpicked by Chloe from thousands of survivors. Every one of them had a score to settle with the new world and held an unwavering loyalty to me. I gathered them in our secret training facility and placed the 10 vials on a table before them. You know what this is? I said. It can grant you power beyond that of a normal human. However, there is a 10% chance of failure. Failure means death. You have the right to choose. If you want to back out, you can leave now. No one moved. 10 pairs of eyes stared at the vials with burning intensity. In this world, power was everything. Good, I nodded. Then, let's begin. Without a moment's hesitation, each of them picked up a syringe and injected the contents into their bodies. What followed was an agonizing wait. Soon, some began to scream in pain, their bodies convulsing, skin turning crimson. Others were encased in a layer of frost or wreathed in crackling electricity. These were the normal side effects of genetic reconstruction. Chloe nervously gripped my hand, her palms slick with sweat. An hour later, the screams subsided. All 10 of them had made it through. A 100% success rate. They had all awakened unique abilities. Fire, ice, metal manipulation, wind blades. The training ground lit up with a display of newfound powers. Though they were still weak, they had been reborn. Dawnbreaker was officially founded, and I was their one and only leader. In the following weeks, I led Dawnbreaker on missions outside the base, operating like a well-oiled machine. We hunted powerful mutated beasts, cleared out zombie-infested industrial parks, and recovered rare resources. We were a razor-sharp scalpel, completing objectives that the regular military had deemed impossible. Our success rate was astounding, and our reputation grew throughout the base. The name Dawnbreaker became legendary. Countless survivors wanted to join our ranks, but our selection process remained incredibly strict, quality over quantity. As we brought back more and more resources, the R&D department was able to produce more of the Genesis serum. Dawnbreaker's numbers grew steadily. 6 months later, Dawnbreaker consisted of 100 powered individuals. We had become a force that no one in Fort Haven could ignore, and everyone had come to know me by a new title, the Lord of Dawn. One day, I received an urgent summons from General Thorne. The atmosphere in the military command center was tense. "We have a situation," Thorne said, pointing to a massive digital map table. "We just received a distress call from the Charleston compound, a survivor settlement to the north. They're under siege by an unprecedented zombie horde, and they've encountered a new type of zombie, one we've never seen before." He played a grainy video clip. In it, a massive hulking zombie covered in bony armor plates, like some kind of monster out of a nightmare, easily tore open the armor of a main battle tank. "We're calling it a juggernaut. The Charleston compound is about to fall. Their commander is begging us for reinforcements." The room fell silent. A rescue mission would mean crossing hundreds of miles of hostile territory to face that thing. It was a suicide mission. "I'll go," I said, breaking the silence. All eyes turned to me. "I'll take Dawnbreaker." General Thorne looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Cole, you know what that means?" "I do." I looked at the location of the Charleston compound on the map. In the original novel, the fall of that city was a major turning point. It was where the first intelligent zombie king was born. That creature went on to unite all the northern hordes, creating a dark tide that brought humanity to the brink of extinction. I could not let that happen again. General, give me full operational command, I said to Thorn, my voice low and steady. This battle isn't just to save a city, it's to save the future of humanity. General Thorn stood up, walked over to me, and gave me a crisp, formal military salute. Godspeed, son. 3 days later, I led the full force of Dawnbreaker along with the military's most elite-powered unit, forming a massive expeditionary force. We set off on the long march north. This time, I wasn't a supporting character being dragged along by the plot. I was the one moving the pieces. I was the protagonist of this new world. Our convoy sped down the desolate highway. I stood on the roof of my armored vehicle, gazing toward the horizon. Chloe came up beside me and draped a heavy coat over my shoulders. What are you thinking about, Cole? I'm thinking that when this is all over, we'll find a place with mountains and rivers, and we'll build a city of our own, I said, turning to look at her with a smile. And you could be the one in charge. How does that sound? A blush crept up Chloe's cheeks. She looked down and muttered, I don't want to be in charge. I just want to be with you. I took her hand in mine. On the distant horizon, the sun was slowly beginning to rise, painting the gray, broken world in hues of gold. I knew it wasn't a sunset, it was the dawn, our dawn.